Hello children, today we are going to learn the poem Song of the Brook from English Junction of Class 7. Alfred Lord Tennyson is a poet of this poem. He is one of the most popular British poets today. Tennyson was known for short lyrics. Mostly his poetries are based on classical mythological themes. In Song of the brook itself is a speaker. It describes its journey from the mountains to when it finally joins a river. The poet speaks in the poem in the first voice, making us understand that it is the brook who is giving his ideas to us and not the poet. Every stanza of the poem talks about the way forward as if the brook is the journeyman. At the same time, the poet stops to remind us that the brook in its journey makes man realize that it is a permanent fixture of the world, unlike mankind, which will just pass away once he has lived his life. In the first verse, the brook describes its starting place, which is a body of water where several birds like the coot and hern have formed their nesting grounds. From that point, which is on a high ground covered by 30 hills, the brook gushes downhill to reach a patch of ground which is filled with ridges. Instead of stopping its course, the brook makes its way by finding gaps in between the ridges and reaches an area of village settlements. In its course, it flows through 20 villages and reaches a small town. On the way, the brook has been bridged by the villagers and townspeople at 50 points, but it continues to flow from beneath these engineering structures. The little brook moves on till it reaches a stretch of farmland and makes its way along the side of farmer Philip's farm. Thereafter, the land is not so fertile and the riverbed is a rocky stretch. The water grind their way across the pebbles with the surface forming small waves because of the uneven surface below. At this point, the countryside through which the brook flows is one of natural variety. There are stony embankments at some places, and at others there are well-grown fields. There are also stretches of fallow ground through which the brook flows along. The growth on its banks as it passes through the wilderness is therefore covered with weeds such as mallow and willow weed. But instead of becoming a dirty strip passing through, it seems to decorate its banks and becomes a picturesque setting. Its sides are filled with natural growth. At this point, the brook seems to be talking to itself as it passes through the unkempt countryside, thinking of the fact that while men come and go, the brook goes on forever. The path of the brook is not a straight path either. It winds its way, finding an exit where it can, and on its waters float blossoms that have fallen from trees and growth alongside the banks. Together with flowers, the brook is filled with varieties of fish that are living in the waters, particularly trout and grayling varieties of fish. As the waters are gushing ahead, there is a foamy surface on the water to be and on the waves. The silver beams of the sunlight fall as also on the sandy banks of the bed below. This makes a delightful arrangement of color on the brook. Thereafter, the brook flows through a few farms and cultivated lands where there are forget-me-nots growing on its banks, and hazel trees makes for a pleasant shade by the brook's water. Unlike the earlier journey, in this part the brook is virtually soundless and seems to slip and slide across the countryside, while a group of swallows is seen flying and skimming across its waters. The sunbeams continue to look attractive as if dancing on the surface of the waters. As it falls in broken bits because of the waves breaking the direct sunlight into dancing bits of sunlight. At night time, in the silence of the night, the sound of the moving waters of the brook is more audible as it now is flowing through a bed of pebbles which slows down the movement of the water and gives rise to a growth of watercress. Finally, it curves out of this lethargic stretch and joins the river, reaching its final journey. This final journey again reminds the poet to mention that the brook goes on forever, while men's journey through life has to end at some point. Finally, the brook empties its waters into a river, merging itself into the flow of the river, thereby wiping out its individual identity. After a long and hectic journey, the end seems to be a relief and a feeling of achievement at having finished its course and reaching its goal. The message given by the poet to us in this poem is the brook's journey from its origin till its joining the brimming river is man's journey through life from birth to death. Just like the man, the brook struggles against the odds of life, against odds in the same way a man struggles through problems. The brook carries many things with it as it flows. So does man. He builds relationships, carries memories, collects materialistic things as he goes through life. The marked difference between man and the brook is that man is mortal, whereas a brook lives forever. Now coming to few assignments related to this lesson are: solve the questions that is given in the textbook. Secondly, the poet has used a number of words which indicate movement and sound. Make a list of these words from the poem. For example, sparkle is a movement word and bicker is a sound word. And last, imagine you are a stone at the bottom of a deep river. What are the things that you will see? Make a note of it. You can solve these answers in your rough copies. Thank you.